Welcome again to the lecture video on osteoarthritis, where I will be talking about the disease, its prevalence, pathophysiology, clinical features and management. Third and final year medical students or students of clinical ortho can make use of it. To begin with, what is arthritis? Arthritis is a general term that describes inflammation in joints. Osteoarthritis is a degenerative joint disorder characterized by progressive deterioration of the hyaline cartilage. Mind and mark my words here that I'm saying it's a progressive deterioration of the hyaline cartilage, and it is also characterized by formation of osteophytes at the joint surfaces and margins. Now, osteoarthritis is one of the most prevalent diseases among the elderly population, and in India around 20 to 30% of the population suffers from osteoarthritis, where women are more prone than men. It often severely affects the patient's quality of life. The main cause of osteoarthritis is the wear and tear of the cartilage over time, which has limited self-repair capacity. Currently, there is no cure for osteoarthritis. Now, existing treatments aim to reduce the symptoms as well as improve joint functional capacity. According to the guidelines from American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and the Osteoarthritis Research Society International, treatment options include exercise, weight management, physical therapy, medications, and finally surgery. Appropriate exercises help to strengthen muscles and to improve joint functions. Weight loss is encouraged to those who are overweight, and again assistive devices such as canes and walkers are recommended for patients with symptomatic knee osteoarthritis. Other treatments such as the complementary and alternative medicines such as nutritional supplements, massage and topical acupuncture have also been indicated, but more clinical data is required to support their efficacy in their treatment. Painkillers and anti-inflammatory medications are the most commonly used treatments, whereas surgery is only considered for those who exhibit severe symptoms and are unresponsive to conservative therapy. Now, the surgeries that can be done are arthroscopic irrigation and debridement, drilling, microfracture techniques. They all show short-term effects but are not benefited in the long term. The same way, the total joint replacement is clinically effective and cost-effective intervention for patients with advanced osteoarthritis, but it is not suitable for young patients because it has a very short lifespan of around 10 to 15 years, after which we don't know how the replacement would work. Now, what exactly is osteoarthritis? In osteoarthritis, because of the loading effect on the weight-bearing joints such as the knees, hips and ankles, there is intense pressure on the hyaline cartilage that lines the joint surfaces. As I mentioned in my previous lecture, the structure of hyaline cartilage has zones in it. The first zone, that is the zone 1, is smooth outermost layer of the cartilage where collagen fibers are arranged parallel to the surface, which in turn help to reduce friction between opposing joint surfaces, and also they distribute forces. Now, in the second layer and the third layer, that is zone 2 and zone 3, the collagen fibers are randomly arranged so that it helps to absorb some of the forces that are imposed on the joints. In zone 3, some of the collagen fibers lie perpendicular to the surface, and in zone 4, it is the total calcified cartilage. Now, the interface between the calcified and the uncalcified cartilage, that is the zone 4 and the zone 3, we had discussed previously, that is called as the tide mark. Now, in osteoarthritis, there is loss of cellular component of the hyaline cartilage that eventually leads to the replacement of zone 4, that is the calcified cartilage, by bone. Now, the collagen fibers in the cartilage are subjected to excessive stresses and strain leading to their rupture. As a whole, the hyaline cartilage develops cracks and the underlying subchondral bone is exposed. Now, when the bone is exposed in absence of proper hyaline cartilage, the load that is being placed on the joint is now directly being transmitted to the bones rather than being transmitted via a cartilage. Now, this leads to micro fractures in the trabeculae of the joint surfaces that is present in the subchondral bone. Now, these micro fractures heal by themselves, but the deposition of the calcium and process of bone resorption does not take place to exactly fill the fractured sites, in the sense that it causes extra bone formation that is called as osteophytes. Now, you can look at the model here and appreciate the changes if you can. This is a normal bone. This is a mildly affected, mildly degenerated bone or joint. This is a moderately degenerated joint, and this is a severely degenerated joint, if you can appreciate here. Normal, mild, moderate and severe. You can see the changes in the hyaline cartilage and changes in the margins. This is smooth. This is not so smooth. This is also not smooth, and this has cracks in it. Now, with the better understanding and research into the pathophysiology of OA progression, it has now been recognized that OA involves the whole joint rather than the cartilage itself. Now, what are the clinical features of osteoarthritis? Obviously, pain is the main presenting symptom. Initially, the pain occurs on weight bearing, but in later stages, it becomes continuous even at rest. Swelling of the joint would be there due to synovitis, and then there would be gradual joint stiffness and capsular contractures. Now, these capsular contractures and joint stiffness will lead to muscle wasting, that is, the strength and power of the surrounding muscles will substantially be reduced, which in turn may lead to deformities like genu varum deformity in case of knee osteoarthritis. And one more thing, there will also be crepitus, that is cracking sound that may be heard when the joint is moved. That is also one of the cardinal clinical features of osteoarthritis. Now, moving to the radiological features, what can you see on an X-ray of an arthritic joint? Most commonly, it shows narrowing of joint space and also osteophytes at the margins of articular cartilage, and in some cases sclerosis and cysts in subchondral bone also can be appreciated on an X-ray. Now, let us move to its management. Now that we have got hold of its introduction and pathophysiology, and we have discussed the clinical features. Now, what will be the goals of the treatment for osteoarthritis? First thing, to reduce pain and joint stiffness. Second thing, to stop further deterioration of hyaline cartilage. Third thing, to improve joint mobility. Fourth thing, to improve joint stability. And the fifth thing, to improve gait. Now, how will we move about in order to achieve these goals? First of all, a multidisciplinary team should work on this, including an orthopedic surgeon, a physical therapist, a nutritionist. Now, since our first goal is to relieve pain and inflammation and to replenish hyaline cartilage and the joint as a whole, the first line of treatment should focus on that by exploring the pharmacotherapeutic options, modalities of pain relief and joint replenishment techniques. Now, the traditional medications that can be used are some over-the-counter drugs such as paracetamol and acetaminophen, which require no prescription. Then there is a category of more potent painkillers called as non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs that work on pain relief by acting directly or indirectly on the chemical mediators of pain. Then there are opioid analgesics that inhibit pain by blocking the pain pathway. Now, the exact mechanism of action of these drugs are beyond the scope of this lecture, but I have a separate lecture video on pain and you can watch and learn from that. Now, there are other traditional categories of drugs such as serotonin, norepinephrine, reuptake inhibitors such as deluxotine, These are also pain relievers that may be prescribed if the management with acetaminophen and NSAIDs has not yielded any pain relief. Now these basically are antidepressants, but since serotonin and norepinephrine imbalance in the central pain pathway causes central sensitization of pain and it leads to chronic pain, the FDA has approved this to be prescribed under such circumstances. Then another line of traditional pharmacological treatment is with intra-articular injections or oral corticosteroids such as methylprednisolone acetate, betamethasone acetate, betamethasone sodium and dexamethasone. Now these are the main drugs used in the corticosteroid treatments. Now these drugs have got anti-inflammatory and immunosuppressive effect, and they act directly on the nuclear steroid receptors and impede the inflammatory and immune cascade, and thereby down-regulating the expression of pro-inflammatory proteins and decreasing inflammatory cytokines. Again, if you want to understand this, you need to go through my previous lecture on pain and do some reading yourself. However, the use of these drugs, both intra-articular and oral, should be avoided as far as possible because chronic use of corticosteroids has been reported to induce osteoporosis, and the benefits of intra-articular injections of corticosteroids, they remain unclear, and further research is required into this. Then finally, the list of traditional medications comes to dietary supplements. Now these supplements can be of vitamin D or 25-hydroxy vitamin D3 because vitamin D deficiency is associated with development or progression of osteoarthritis, because vitamin D has effects on calcium absorption in cartilage and bone metabolism also. Usually weekly booster dose of 60,000 units of co-calciferol is prescribed in cases of vitamin D3 deficiency with less than 20 nanograms per milliliter. And then if you have studied or seen my lecture video on joint structure and function, you would know the importance of glucosamine and chondroitin sulfate in the cartilage matrix. So these are also the supplements that are given. Anyway, in brief, glucosamine and chondroitin sulfate play an important role in regulating the osmotic pressure and collagen network hemostasis. Now, over the past 20 years, glucosamine and chondroitin sulfate have been widely used for the management of the symptoms of osteoarthritis. However, American College of Rheumatology, which is an elite research organization or research group that has formulated various treatment protocols and diagnostic guidelines, it does not recommend glucosamine and chondroitin sulfate as the initial treatment of OA in its latest guidelines, and it does not assure their consistency also. Having said that, all these traditional drugs are well documented in the literature and are commonly used in today's clinical management. Although there are generally accepted guidelines for these traditional drugs, they need to be used with caution due to growing concerns of their adverse effects. There are many emerging drugs too that are being used for research and treatment of OA that aim to reduce pain, relieve symptoms and restore the normal joint structure with minimal side effects. Now, without going into the actual mechanism of action of these drugs, because again it would be beyond the scope of this lecture, let me tell you in brief that these emerging disease modifying drugs act by modifying the progression of osteoarthritis by regulating cartilage metabolism, subchondral bone remodeling or synovial inflammation. Now, examples of these emerging medications are cytokines, monoclonal antibodies and inhibitors which help reduce inflammation, promote chondrogenesis and inhibit osteogenesis and matrix degradation. Now, till now we have discussed the pathophysiology, clinical and radiological features of OA. I have told about the pharmacotherapy approach to management of OA. Now, in my very next video or very next lecture, we shall discuss about the physical therapy management of OA. Okay. Now, till then, study this and do some reading yourself. Okay. Take care. Goodbye.